Lovely
Good morning.
to see you all online. I see we've got 25 people already joined and can't wait for everybody else. We'll just give everybody a few moments, Steve, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Lovely. Oh, the numbers are creeping up nicely there.
I don't know where everybody is, but I hope they're enjoying the sunshine, and it's warm already at 15 minutes past 9 in the morning. So hopefully it's going to be a beautiful weekend.
Absolutely. Can't wait for it. So it is absolutely lovely to have you with us. I'm Debbie Venables from Let's Talk Talent, and I'm joined by the wonderful Steve Ratcliffe, one of our associate coaches and consultants, and we're really looking forward to spending the next 45 minutes with you, engaging with you. So please, this is your session. Our friendly support at the back from Red Mud will be in the background. They'll be putting up the presentation. There'll be some polls, but it's really going to be a really interactive session. And we really engage. I would invite you just to chat to us in the chat, etc. So Lydia, if you could put the presentation up, that would be great. If it's not up already, there. Lovely. So let's kick off. We see we've got some, the numbers have definitely crept up, but it really is awesome to have you with us. Let's Talk Talent. We're all about empowering you, working and partnering with you to keep, get, and grow brilliant people. We fundamentally believe at our heart in everything that we do, that everybody has potential, but it's about tapping into the right things for that individual with their superpowers. And that's what we're really going to talk about a lot today. This is the last session. And Steve, I feel very privileged that you and I get to close off all of the webinars for Let's Talk Talent as part of Learning at Work Week. We've had hundreds of people. Sorry. Steve,
we are the Sorry. It's me.
Yes, we've had good. We're getting used to each other. I think there's a little bit of a lag on my side. But yes, we've had hundreds of people join us in different webinars around different topics. If you're wanting to catch up on any of those, we'll share some QR codes at the end. But it really has been an amazing Learning at Work week. Steve, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say we are the blessed. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk about such an important topic in terms of neurodiversity and leadership. And yeah, just to finish off the week.
Absolutely. Super. You're right. It's just the best end. So why are we here today, everybody? It's really about talking about how we can support our neurodivergent leaders to thrive. We honestly believe, as we said, it's about getting, keeping, and growing brilliant people. And it's not about survival. It's about thriving. And that's what we're going to tap into in the sharing that Steve and I will be doing with you today. So we're going to start off with hearing from all of you first of all. We're going to put up our first poll, and we'd love to hear from you first to say, well, in your experience, what is that one reason that neurodivergent individuals in your experience, what is the one reason neurodivergent employees in your organization don't disclose their status? Stigma, yeah. Okay, we've got 15 responses in, Steve, 53 people online, which is absolutely awesome. So just give everybody a chance. We love making sure that everybody has a voice and their voices are heard. So
100%. And we're going to talk about stats in a minute.
Yeah.
Stigma is coming up really high here, being labeled. Yeah.
And honestly, that's very in line with the things that we're hearing from our clients. People don't want to talk about it because what are you going to do with that information? And that concept of psychological safety. 56% of our audience, Steve, are telling us that it's around stigma and the fear of being labeled. 100%.
That's very cool.
Thank you very much. We see there's lots going on in the chat. I just want to make sure that if there is any questions or comments, etc., that we do have a view of that one as well. So yes, it is about understanding what is holding back from being their authentic and best self. And honestly, there's a business case, Steve, that you and I have been chatting about for so long now. want to share a little bit about what you're picking up, what you've seen?
100%. So going to throw some stats. Thank you, Debbie. I'm going to throw some stats at you. So 1 in 7 people in the UK are neurodivergent. Now, these statistics come from academic research, government observation. Basically, that equates to 15 to 20% have a diagnosis or are neurodivergent. So 1 in 7 people in the UK are neurodivergent. 11% have a formal diagnosis. 13% suspect that they are neurodivergent without a diagnosis. So these are rough estimates, really, and they're growing all the time. If you think about the term neurodiversity, it was only coined in the early 90s. So literally 30 years into it, we're literally at the tip of the sword in terms of talking about it, discussing it, understanding it. 60% of employees don't disclose, and stigma comes up obviously in the survey for fear of, just basically being ostracized or which is, and when you think about neurodiversity from an early age, if you know, in my experience from coaching, Debbie's experience from coaching, that you're different. It doesn't mean less, but in terms of the way you learn, in terms of the way you perceive society, that there is some difference there. So that's understandable, right? And that's why we're talking about what we're talking about today. If we can reduce that by even a small margin, then we're making progress.
Absolutely. And it's lovely to see that one of our participants, when you said, about the, disclosing and rebuilding the trust and all of those good things, Steve, that they agreed with you 100%. So it's nice to know that our observations are seen by the people who are closest to the people.
100%, Debbie, 100%. So another stat for you, 85% of adults are unemployed. 85% of adults that are unemployed are autistic. So, of adults that are autistic, that's a massive number. And that's something that's missing in terms, if you think about superpowers and strengths and, what people can bring to the table. So, that's a massive number.
What still amazes me every day is that we are seeing so much around people being underutilized. And as we said right at the beginning, one of our philosophies at Let's Talk Talent, and a lot of our clients identify with that, is that everybody has the potential, but the potential to do what? And what this tells me is that if we create those environments, we really are going to tap into that potential within the individuals. And Steve and I have been working on with an amazing client on some competencies and some coaching, building a coaching culture. And they specialize in autism, and their employees focus on that. And one of the key things that I've learned out of that process, and Steve and I were reflecting on this last week when we were chatting, is about the fact that if we start looking after the environment and the autistic need, for example, we get so much more out of the individuals in the environment. So absolutely great learnings around all of those elements as well.
It's a very complex issue, Debbie, isn't it? And that's a great point. The environment, is one aspect of it. That's how we can approach with autism, particularly with, tendencies and traits for the brain. It doesn't mean less. It just means we need to meet people where they are.
Absolutely.
Interestingly, 50% of organizations have a neurodiversity policy, but they don't quite know what to do with it. In our experience, it seems like sometimes it's a tick box, or it's literally a discussion and then it's just shelved. And this is the thing. And again, Learning at Work Week, our discussion that we're having at the moment, leadership, employees. We need to understand more about individuals. And if we can cut down that stigma piece, then we can start talking about it, right?
Absolutely.
So, Debbie.
Yes, it's so important that as we've shared these statistics, etc., with everyone, we get to the point where we need to start saying, have you thought about a couple of things? And we've put a couple of questions there around, things that we've picked up, and we'd like you to ponder on, to reflect on. Are your divergent leaders, neurodivergent leaders, masking? Are they just surviving, or have we set up our environments to help them to thrive? How does our ED&I strategies mention neurodiversity, but from what we've mentioned, have we actually done something different? Have you implemented something? Do you actually have a plan? Do you measure the changes? How are you going about those things? Leadership development programs. Is it a one-size-fits-all? Is it something that's specifically designed for neurodivergent leaders, or is it just something that's out there? And would you know if a neurodivergent leader was leaving your organization because they don't feel safe? And I see Lydia's on the ball as usual, and she's popped up the poll. And we would love to hear from you what you find is the reality in your organization. Where are your priorities, or where are you sitting on all of those elements that we've just shared with you? Steve, it's awesome to see that we've got 63 people who are so passionate about neurodiversity on our call today.
And also, Debbie, you mentioned, even the term masking, what does that look like?
Absolutely.
Obviously, we all have a persona, we all have a different way of showing work and at home, but in terms of neurodivergence, what else do we need to know about, leadership? If we look at, autistic traits, alexithymia, those of you who don't know, literally, you don't know your emotions. So if you're a leader, how can you judge the emotions of others? How do you master that? How do you deal with that? SRD, sensory rejection disorder. In my experience, a lot of leaders that are neurodivergent find feedback difficult.
Yeah.
Both receiving and giving. So
beautiful things that came up in a leadership program that I was presenting at yesterday. Lovely to see the results in the poll. That a lot of you are saying the development programs are not designed. Well, I'm glad for the neurodivergent leaders, but it's very close. The highest one there is the masking to fit in. And 100% that is what we're finding as well, that individuals won't necessarily sign up for these things. And a lot of that is built up from a trust perspective, because we are just masking to survive, because we're trying to fit in to that neurotypical mold. And as Steve has so beautifully shared with us, it's not possible in terms of the way that their brains are wired. But how do we do that? How do we move forward? What is that opportunity that we've got within our businesses to be able to move things forward? And I think if we don't do something, we stand a risk of missing out on something really great. We miss out on the opportunity to influence lives. We want people to thrive. We don't want individuals to burn out. We don't want them to mask those elements that should be superpowers for them, that we could tap into and make our organizations even better. We don't want individuals to think that we're just compliance organizations. It impacts our whole employee value proposition. And it's not something that just affects us while the individual is with us. It's something that affects our brand as organizations as we step out into the market, how we attract and retain high talented individuals within our environments. And we all know that the war on talent isn't getting any easier. That investment that we're putting in there into developing our people, attracting those right people, we're missing out on a huge opportunity of using those superpowers of our neurodivergent leaders. Because honestly, I have seen some of the most amazing leaders who've disclosed their status to us, but they make the difference. But the amount of work they need to put in, because the environment doesn't necessarily suit them. So really good insights and things that happen that that can negatively impact us if we don't act on them. So there's a huge opportunity cost here for us. Steve said it a couple of times, and every time he says it, I get this little flurry in my heart, because it isn't about being less. The barrier doesn't sit in the individual, it sits within the environment, and how we create enabling environments for those beautiful superpowers to actually come out. And I think what we forget in the process is what those superpowers are that we're potentially missing out on. So Steve, I'd love for you to share a little bit with us about how you see those superpowers unfolding.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Debbie. Literally seeing it all the time in coaching. And the statistics don't lie. If you look at national security, for example, GCHQ particularly seek out and employ neurodivergent people purely because pattern recognition, creative problem solving, hyper focus, attention to detail, innovative thinking, honest communication. And it's not just it's across wider government bodies, it's across other organizations where your brain, they tap into the superpowers of your brain, but they look at the brain as a whole. And that's what we're missing sometimes. Debbie mentioned earlier, you mentioned earlier, Debbie, that, employers need to project a little bit more how they can support neurodivergent people, because a lot of neurodivergent people, when they're looking for, potential employers, are looking for specific traits with employers, how their needs can be met. So we need to be totally transparent. Employers need to be totally transparent in that aspect, because you will attract that talent. You will attract that uniqueness, and we're not just focusing on that part of the brain that's neurodivergent. We're focusing on the brain as a whole. But again, there's a whole plethora of talent out there that's untapped. And if you go back to that 85% of autistic adults are unemployed or underemployed, then what are we missing out on? Because some of these traits are really important to specific roles.
So true. And there's been an awesome chat going on in the chat function there about really tapping into and connecting, talking, asking our employees, what is important to them, how they would like to be spoken to. And Joe, thank you for that lovely comment there. Steve, there's somebody who needs to talk to you around all of the stuff that you were talking about with autism and that as well. And it's lovely to see that so many of you are seeing those same characteristics, those same superpowers coming out, and how we could potentially tap into those a little bit more. So really exciting that we all seem so aligned. When you say underemployed, what does this mean? So what often happens, or what we've seen, is that some of our neurodivergent leaders have the potential to be in high-leveled positions, but because of their neurodiversity, they choose to go into, or they are held back from progressing into those high-level positions, possibly stigmas, possibly their own confidence in terms of stepping up as well. So we are seeing people underemployed in roles that where they have the potential to be able to be more as effective in more senior roles. Laura, does that help? I see you've just put in a thanks. Perfect.
Can I add to that second, please?
Yes, please.
Yesterday, I was in a coaching session, and I heard a really successful person who has worked, in various industries, finished their career at Microsoft, but the sense was, I did all right, and they disclosed that they were autistic. They'd had that diagnosis, but I could have done more, and they were at a crossroads in their life, basically, as to what to do next. But I heard that I did all right, but I could have done more. You can't help but think, why?
100%. And Kim's just added into that sometimes those individuals, yes, they do all right, but they're so tired by doing all right that they actually don't necessarily have the energy to tap into using some of those other skills, because it's just been such a hard slog almost to get to the end of the day.
That's absolutely the other thing, Debbie, as you mentioned, burnout. Burnout is a big thing for everybody, right? For leaders, but particularly in terms of certain areas of neurodiversity or neurodivergence, if you're masking all day, if you're fitting into a neurotypical world and you're leading people, it's even more important that we understand how this works and how we lead and how we can avoid that burnout piece.
So true. I can see why Steve is our neurodivergent specialist at LTT. Honestly, his knowledge and experience in this has given us great insights. And you can see how passionate he is, number one, but how we are tapping into his superpowers to bring forward solutions to our clients around neurodivergence. And it really is remarkable. So Steve, loving your knowledge and your experience sharing here with us. So thank you for that. I learn something every time. But I think one of the things, and we all know we've got that proverbial CFO, love the CFOs in the room as well, if you are any, but we do have to start thinking of how do we turn our initiatives into investments, because we do spend a lot of money on developing individuals. But how do we make sure that we are setting people up for success in the future? And this is something that in all of the learning strategies, all of the culture audits that we do across LTT with our clients, etc., all the leadership programs that we do, we always focus on how do we get the skills of the future prepared for today. So it's thinking about the problem of tomorrow and today. And how do we make sure we set programs up that make sure that we are addressing those needs and organizations can really feel the impact. And what we're finding is the initiatives that really have the biggest impact are around inclusive leadership, the things that we've been talking about, tapping into all of those extra things that to make everybody feel that they're, number one, allowed in the room, at the table, they've got a voice at the table, but most importantly, that they're heard. That to me is just such a powerful element. Building that resilience. With the way that the world of work is moving, etc., we're always expected to do more with less or with the same. And that resilience and that ability not to burn out is becoming so much more of a focal point for all of us. And just think of our neurodivergent leaders in our businesses who are still expected to do all of those things, plus expend the energy on masking and all of those things. And it was lovely, not lovely, it was very interesting to see the comment made in the chat as well about how they sometimes we've seen neurodivergent leaders working part-time roles just so that those additional hours is recovery time. So how are we setting up our programs to really make sure that we don't end up with people taking time off just to recover from work? We all need to refresh on that. Authenticity. The more we have to try and be something that we're not, the harder it becomes. And the more energy we're spending, but not necessarily on the things that are going to have the biggest impact. And how, if we start tapping into those authentic leadership styles, those authentic superpowers, how much more can we thrive together? Empathetic communication is something you can learn. Was at a large university a few months ago, actually, running an experienced leader masterclass. We had an autistic leader in the room, and she was beautiful. She shared her thoughts, she shared her feelings, she shared her diagnosis and disclosed where she was. She was autistic. But she shared with us how she had taught herself skills to understand the emotions and how her emotional intelligence, which was a really foreign concept to her, how that had grown. It might not have met the norms of all the psychometrics, etc., but how she had grown and the impact of all of that. But it was about individuals investing in her at that one point in time in her career to help her understand what it meant in her world and how her brain sorted the information. So it really is about really tapping into that. Changing our thinking, adapting our thinking to the situations we're in, to the environments that we're in, the demanding pressures, how we flex, and meeting each of our leaders in the space that they need to be in so that we can help them be more adaptive in their thinking, etc. Using those superpowers of pattern recognition to make a difference in their own lives, but also in the lives of others. So really, this is where we turn activity into something that really makes a difference. Steve, anything you wanted to add?
No, I just love that. You put that so beautifully. It's thank you, Debbie. It's literally meeting people where they are.
Absolutely.
You know, looking at the individual. We work with people all the time, right? Experiencing the leaders, you know, middle management, whatever you want to call it, sort of thing. And we always see the same thing. People have to work that much harder on themselves in order to do the best they can as a leader.
So true. Yes, you've seen the polls up. We'd love to hear from you. We said we were going to make this engaging. We would love all the comments, but where do you think your organization needs support in terms of supporting those neurodivergent leaders? 5 answers in, we'll give you some time. No leadership development program for neurodivergent leaders. That's definitely coming up at the highest at this point in time, but we've only got 23 people responding yet so far.
I think we have a little bit of a solution to that. Let's Talk Talent.
You might just, hey? Might just yet. We saw that as a gap as well in the market. We really did. We realized that there wasn't something specifically for our neurodivergent leaders, and we're always retrofitting. And I truly believe that the more we create opportunities, the more individuals will see that the organizations are serious about listening to them, about creating an enabling environment. So I absolutely agree with that. Lovely. We've got some good answers in there, but yes, our no leadership development programs definitely at the top of that. So where have we been working at Let's Talk Talent? Yes, we have a huge client base, and we work across so many industries, different sized organizations, different environments, local, global. You know, we just believe that the best is yet to come. But we've been working and we've been building our Neurodivergent Leader Bootcamp. That we know is something that is going to make a huge difference. It is something that will empower our neurodivergent leaders to really step forward and thrive with confidence. We've done a lot of work in the coaching space. We run this beautiful Talent Accelerator program for a large multinational organization, and we're coaching more and more neurodivergent leaders, and we'll share a little bit of an insight on that one with you in a minute. But we're helping organizations really shape their people strategies around how they embrace neurodiversity and turn it from a compliance activity to something that really sets them apart in terms of the employee value proposition and how they engage and get further engagement, because we know the higher the engagement, the better the performance. And that's what businesses are about, is about creating those high-performing teams. The other area that we've been doing some work in is around culture audits, understanding where those blockers are so that we can put robust plans in, not just to tick the box that we've got the policy, but also that we can put initiatives in place that really make that difference. And Steve very eloquently shared that with us earlier with the statistics about how impactful it would be if we actually did something different and people could see it. And that's how we build trust. If people see that we mean what we say and we say what we mean, I think that's absolutely key. So what have we learned from dealing or working with neurodiverse leaders? Steve, you've been doing a lot of coaching on that accelerator program. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've seen, what you've experienced, and the results you've seen?
Yeah, thanks, Deb. I mean, as you mentioned, we're working with a global organization at the moment on a talent accelerator program. Obviously, these people have been recognized and invested in. But we're dealing with, neurotypical, neurodivergent people. The difference with the neurodivergent people is a lot of traits keep coming up. As I mentioned earlier, SRD, sensitivity rejection disorder, when it comes to giving and receiving feedback, I'm seeing a lot of consistent masking, which has got these leaders to where they are. But sometimes in coaching, we need to unpack the reasons and the what and why of certain things and help them just receive these opportunities just to grow. We use the zebra model. So, in coaching, it's about the zebra model in coaching is about empowering people. We start with their strengths. We help them realign and reimagine success, basically, and we meet them where they are. And this model was specifically designed for neurodivergent individuals, although it can be used for neurotypical individuals. It's one of the models that I use, and Debbie and myself have talked about it many times. Debbie's fascinated by it, and I know you are. It's one of those coaching models that literally help to empower neurodivergent individuals. We literally, the tools that we use, some of these tools are gamification. Some of these tools are task initiation, which potentially neurodivergent people, with a diagnosis or undiagnosed, they recognize that some of these things, some of these simple things that in a neurotypical world we overlook or expect of people are really challenging.
Agreed.
If you're autistic, I've worked with autistic coaches where a system of hot desking has been implemented. And it's like change is just painful. Mm-hmm. And we don't realize, the implications of sometimes of what we expect of people. And that's where our coaching program and everything comes in.
Thanks for sharing this, Steve. And I think in all the conversations that we've had around this, these are giving us the insights in how we've actually started looking at building a boot camp. Because what's coming out of our coaching around neurodiverse leaders, etc., is that they need certain things. They need structures and systems. They need support in terms of putting things in place that will help them thrive. And that's really been the basis of our design of our Neuro Leadership boot camp. And I'm really fortunate, or we're very fortunate to work for an organization where Joe said to us, hang on a minute, guys, do it. You're passionate about it. Go out and let's put something together that's going to make a difference. And we can only say thank you for the opportunity. And it's lovely to see that it seems to be an initiative that is going to that resonates with individuals on our call this morning as well. So what makes our Neuro Leadership boot camp different? It is about making sure that we harness that authentic style. Not try and fit them into one of those typical neurotypical leadership formats. It's about taking what their authentic leadership traits are, etc., and using those superpowers, as Steve mentioned, using those strengths to really reimagine the future. It's about helping them, supporting them to improve engagement and collaboration around their team using their natural strengths, but at the same time building those personal support systems and support structures so that the individual does not feel like, oh, that was a one-hit wonder and nothing's going to be able to be sustained and it's just going to be more work. So we really work closely with the individuals in our cohorts, etc., to really build those support structures and the system that suits their style. Because somebody who's dyslexic, for example, might not need the same thing as somebody with autism or OCD or any one of those other neurodivergent traits. What really sets this apart is that we've used so many blended approaches in our design to make sure that the content reaches the person in the best way. So it's not just about having a transcript on an e-learning and those sorts of things. It's about really making sure that we tap into what is going to make the learning accessible, but not just accessible, implementable. Because otherwise it's just data, it's just information. We want something that's going to change the way that those individuals experience leading. And that's what Steve and I are all about. We really want to tap into bringing that best out of those individuals.
Can I just quickly add to that?
Go for it.
So, as you said, literally, we're talking about specific conditions, but we're talking also in terms of neurodivergence about combined traits and tendencies. and we meet the individual. That's the point, where they are, and we look at the brain as a whole, but then we look at how we can support them as a leader, as a person, as an individual. And there is no one size fits all, as you said, Debbie.
Yeah, spot on. Steve, we've explored some exciting tools. I'd love for you to share a little bit about one of the tools that we've used in our neuroleadership program.
So we've just discovered a new tool, which is called Points of View. And literally what we look at, if I can just take a picture card, is we look at a card. We ask a question. For instance, how do you show up at work? And then we ask you to look at the card. You can pick any card of a series of cards that's most relatable to you. And then we ask you to talk about what you're seeing in the card related to the specific question. Now, particularly for neurodivergent creative mindsets, this is a tool that we found to be really productive. We use lots of tools like Lego Series Play and things like that. But the point is, it's about that creative mindset. It's about unlocking that potential and tapping into that particular, part of your brain. It's about gamification, about being playful, because this is a powerful tool that unlocks so much potential.
So true. And linking in with that, what it does is it teaches and empowers our neurodivergent leaders to ask questions differently by using visual stimulus, by using visual cues. And that seems to resonate really well with the clients that we have rolled this tool out at. We've seen huge engagement in a large workshop we've just run around building a performance culture. And some of the individuals that joined us from this leadership team said to us, you know what, this just resonates with me. It makes the process of giving feedback or setting a goal so much easier, because it takes all the hard thinking out of the process. It doesn't stop us from thinking and stretching, but it really does help reduce that cognitive balance and help us to tap into all the news, into the opportunities that we can, and to start using some of those other superpowers, to start picking up on those trends, on those patterns that come out, using that creativity to solution things, instead of just looking at words on a page or having just normal conversation. But it really taps into that creativity.
It's about looking at things through a different lens, right, Debbie? It's kind of,
Absolutely. I cannot believe that we're coming almost, we've only got another sort of 8 minutes on our call today, Steve. It's been really great to see all the engagement in the chats, etc. But I just want to share with you, and please, this is not the end of the webinar. We're going to open up to some questions and answers if you've got any that you'd like Steve and I to comment on. So please pop those in the chat. But really, in terms of our experiences, we know we've got talent in our organization, but we know that we're missing a huge opportunity because we've missed a real gold mine in our neurodivergent leaders. Leadership development shouldn't be built for someone else. It should be built for you. It should be built for individuals so that they can tap into those opportunities to thrive. We don't want people just surviving. Compliance is not inclusion. More and more we're engaging with our clients. They're seeing the opportunity to turn compliance into a leadership quality and an opportunity to become great employers as well. So please, in compliance and making sure we've got all the paperwork in place doesn't make us an inclusive environment. The superpowers that Steve shared earlier are the business case for us to make the difference. We know what the future skills are. We've seen those. They were all up on the graph as well. But those really are going to set your organization apart for the future, setting you up for success as well. How do we tap into those and channel those superpowers in an environment that allows individuals to be authentic, to be real, to thrive, to engage, and really create high performance? We have a couple of, as I said to you, the recordings from all the previous webinars from this week and Learning at Work Week, plus the recording of this webinar will also be shared on our hubs and our Let's Talk People channels on WhatsApp. So if you're wanting to sign up, we've put the QR codes in there. And it's a great opportunity for you just to connect with other like-minded individuals. The Let's Talk People group is an interactive group where with our hub, we push a little bit of information so you don't always get things lost in your emails. I don't know about you, but those emails stress me out when there's too many of them and you're not sure which ones you need to focus on, etc. So we just know that the feedback we've got is that our WhatsApp groups are really supporting people to tap into those things that really matter and sharing our learning experiences with us. But it's over to you. Are there any questions or anything like that? Is there any evidence research of any occupations which suit different ND types? I must be honest, Fiona, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. What we'll do is we'll take that offline if that's okay, and we'll have a look and see what we've got. I'm sure we do have some stats around or some research on that one. But yes, if you're interested in our Neurodiverse Accelerator program, please could you go over to the link that's just been put in by Lydia, and you can download our brochure, I guess, if one better way of putting it, about our Neuro Leadership Accelerator Bootcamp so that you can explore it. Otherwise, please feel free just to reach out to us. Steve and myself would love to have a conversation with you, but it would be great to interact with you on this one. We've also got our next webinar coming up, which will be really great. So if you haven't signed up for it already, please head over to our website as well, and you can definitely sign up for those. We hope you've enjoyed your time with us. Steve, I've loved the chat as usual. I've loved the engagement with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening and spread the word. As you say, Debbie, if you have any questions about, our boot camps or our coaching, our approach, anything, Debbie and myself are more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Excellent. We're staying online, so if there are any questions, it's lovely to see so many thank yous and interesting information. But if you've got any questions, you're welcome to pop them in there. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Stevie, I don't think we're going to do it enough justice. Could you explain the wording around high functioning? So you get your high performers, etc., working in there. You've got in your organization where they've overcome their neurodiversities, etc., or they're not overcome them. They're performing, highly performing, but in the processes, they are burning themselves out. So I see that a lot with individuals with ADHD. One of my clients is a high-functioning person with ADHD, but that hyper-focus, etc., has burnt them out. And they're tired all the time, and it's starting to affect their health, etc. So it is something that is real. You don't feel it's very functional.
You could, there is a term, high performing, in terms of 2HE, which is classified as a scientist, which is classified as an academic, which is classified in that realm where the brain is, as a whole, is highly intelligent, but then you have that neurodivergence in terms of that hyper focus, those superpowers, which is added to their, their aspirations in terms of leadership, in terms of professionalism, in terms of, so that's 2E, high performing functioning, basically. And you see that a lot, like I say, in terms of, you see that a lot in GCHQ, you see that a lot in other organizations with doctors, scientists, academics.
We are going to get cut off. Thank you, Fiona, for sharing that with us so that you see it at the university. Stevie, if that didn't answer your question properly, please feel free to reach out and we can have a longer conversation. I'm asking as well. Yes, Laura, we are seeing, I agree with you on that one. With that, we've come to the end of our time. So sorry we can't take more questions, but please feel free to reach out to us. It was lovely being with you all. Be well.
Thank you so much.